Okay. Hi. Welcome back. So, Happy New Year. It is officially the new year. So, this this is the first day, and there's definitely um something up. I definitely feel like I guess a shift, or I don't know what you call it, but it does feel like a shift. I read a little bit into like what the combinations of like this new year are about, and I haven't really I've gotten into like things concerning like the details about how New Year's are going to be and all these types of things, but with this one I think I just like felt it out, and I'm not like the keenest person about these things. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to, deciphering these things sometimes. But I did feel like this year was, and I'm playing with my hair, kind of helps me think sometimes. Um, so, uh, there. Um, I felt like the situation right now is like, I guess, trusting in your twin flame. Um, that's that's my strongest sense, is that there needs to be an absolute foundation of like faith and trust, like faith in the person that you know them to be, and trusting like in like the choices that you guys make, and especially like one, like I feel as if the male side has their things that they are doing and that they need to do, and there's no getting around it. There's no um there are no shortcuts. I think that's a big thing. Sorry, I get itchy nose as soon as the camera starts rolling. My nose starts getting itchy. I don't think it's anything crazy. It just happens. Maybe it's a nervous reaction. I don't know. But yeah, there aren't any shortcuts. And so sometimes during these times you can get really confused and really anxious and even like angry. And usually the anger stems, I think, from love, at least the frustration, like um, everything pretty much stems from the love that you have for your twin flame. I mean, you know, and sometimes there's a lot to learn and understand about each other that isn't really even known to be something that needs to be understood and learned about, um, really until it comes up. Um, and then that's where, like, I believe the love and trust and faith situation comes in. Because sometimes it can be, like, I guess, sudden and drastic, and or at least it'll seem that way. It's like a lot of things seem a certain way, like with your own, I guess, consideration, like your own experiences and the way that you do things, and um, all this kind of stuff. So, um, And then when you pair that with somebody else who has their own, I guess, approach to a mission, I'm trying to make sure that my Xbox doesn't shut off, because then I'll turn blue. My screen will turn blue. So, but yeah, if they have their own approach to doing their side of things their way, like, you can't really avoid some stuff. So that means you kind of have to like trust their like opinion. And your twin flame is very trustworthy. You know, most likely you guys have been through a lot. And sometimes it's easy for maybe the feminine to not include everything with like the present situation. And what I mean by everything is like all the good stuff, all the stuff that you guys have like learned together and seen and been through. Sometimes it's just about like what the one current thing is, and everything else kind of gets like evaporated. And so thinking about who you're dealing with, I think, is a big help. You know, like the entirety of who they are and the love that they have for you, the way that they've shown this love, the way that they operate. I feel like this year coming up has kind of like sealed all the rest of the years off. You know, I heard something like 16, 17, and 18 were like in a group of years themselves. And then like 19 is like it coming full circle and like basically graduating up to the next, I guess, categories, the next sequences of events. Some ways that I've recognized these things, and I'm just kind of coming off the dome here. Itchiest nose like ever. It's like, whoa. I don't itch my nose this much in like a week, but it's the camera. But yeah. So like the way that I figured these things out is like I try pretty hard. I don't know if it's my best, but to like observe things that are going on, and like I try to observe them over time. So sometimes you can kind of pick up like the momentum of certain areas of progress, and sometimes you'll get this like feeling about like the future, and it'll just be kind of like almost like a premonition, but it's so faint, you know. And then as like you go through the rings, like the, you know, the steps to getting there, the things that you need to kind of go through become recognizable. And sometimes they become recognizable like after the fact, like after things happen, and then like you kind of, you know, can have an indicator that you're at the right place at the right time you kind of had this feeling that these things were going to happen, or that these certain events needed to happen in order to make progress. And what the progress is, I believe there's like I believe there's multiple sets of progress. I think ultimately it's to be together. But the together means continuing to do the work that is kind of predetermined for you guys to accomplish together. I think in the beginning, or can you say the beginning? Because the beginning can be years, but sometimes there's years of work or years of things to learn, like years of work, years of like certain events. And these events may not even have anything directly to do with you guys. It might be the events of the work that you need to do together outside of your union, outside of your relationship. Like, I believe that twin flames work best together. I don't see like choosing to be separate from your twin as being like usually the best circumstance. I do feel I have experienced like having separate incarnations, like separate times that, one versus the other has chosen to, I guess come down to this realm and do some things. But in some cases, in other cases, some twin flame other halves are quick to say, well, I'm going to. Sometimes there's stuff that one has had to do versus the other. And it's not really even a versus, because all their work is done together. I think there's sometimes that one twin has to support the other. And sometimes when, you're used to having that support, I think in past lifetimes, when you come into a lifetime where you're the one who is doing the supporting, sometimes that can throw you a little off, especially if it's not like it hasn't been the norm, I guess, in the scheme of things recently. So if you guys have gone through a few lifetimes where one has done the supporting and you come to one where it's now you doing the supporting, it can feel strange. It can feel abnormal because, it hasn't been what your soul has become accustomed to, especially if you have like a mental wipeout, like you haven't come into acknowledging everything or a lot of what there is to know about your past incarnations. So that's the kind of stuff that one twin would have to have faith in the other for, or with. At the same time, one twin flame would have to have faith that the one twin flame that needs the supporting is doing what they need to do, but they always have you in mind. So I think that coming into this year, 2019, year of the boar, I think it's that kind of maybe parallel shift. Maybe all the things that you guys have known about each other, maybe it's like coming to fruition. Like the years 16, 17, and 18, and maybe even before, those years had their thing going on. But then 16, 17, and 18 had more of the core work that was leading up for what's coming into 19, 20, and 21. So I think that with that previous set of circumstances and years and experiences, I think it's going to call for these next years to have a requirement of like unconditional trust and unconditional faith and of course unconditional love. But I think that's like, that might be the easy part, you know. The other parts, especially for like me, I want my way. In life, I get easily frustrated by things that I don't understand. Or if I feel like there's more to know about something, I get frustrated when I don't have the information, but I have to operate without it. I'm kind of like, well, let me just find out what's going on, like, you know, so I can fill in the blank and like move on in a constructive way. So I could take this information and apply it to the work for the future. You know, like I have all my tools. Like if I'm going into working, it's like I'm working on a car. You know, it's like if I'm going in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to, I don't know, change my spark plugs, and I don't have the right socket to get my valve cover off. I'm kind of like, well, what's the point? You know, it's like, well, not what's the point. I get frustrated. Like there's a secret. I find that, you know, me working abstractly, unless it's painting, like me working abstractly, like, you know, it's like I feel like I need my tools. Like there's no other socket that's going to work unless it just messes the socket up. So I'm like, okay, I just need this socket and then I can get on and like do a good job. If I feel like I'm working without the elements, I feel like I can't move on. Like I gotta go to, you know, the store and pick up this socket. Like I can't do the work until I have all the tools. So, and substituting, you know, tools doesn't work for me. I mean, I guess to a point with this whole twin flame experience and this whole experience in general, like there is a lot of being without the things that you think that you need, but you always wind up coming through. You always wind up figuring out like why. And that's another, I think, part of the unique part of the trust and faith, because those things are particularly challenging for me. Like almost like being in the dark, you know? But a lot of the twin flame journey is like being in the dark. So I just think about the whole thing in general, and I feel good and optimistic overall about this coming year. I feel like things have, you know, come into place, and there's been a lot of discoveries for, I think, a lot of the twin flame community. I like to mention the community, you know, just for the sake of it. But each union is completely different. So, but I just feel as if when time goes on, like there's always like progress made. And hopefully, like, I've made some degree of sense. It's not easy for me to articulate these things. I feel as if I get my point across, and that's important. But, to, I don't know, I lost my train of thought, but basically to like concisely define things, I don't think that it works. The concise definition that I can kind of share that I've experienced is that it's an evolving union. And the more that you evolve, the more that you have to evolve. Like, it's like, like the more that you learn, the more responsibility you have, and the further you get into the journey, it becomes more complex, and sometimes complexity can bring along confusion, especially like in the beginning phases. I found that it kind of works in a circular motion. Like at the beginning of the circle, you're kind of going uphill, and it can feel like new, and it can feel like there's a lot going on, and then you reach like the apex, and it's like, I think that's where the aha moments are, and then that carries you, like that momentum carries you through the rest. And then when you've gone that distance or have completed those parts of the journey, then it kind of sets things up for like the next, I guess, hurdle or obstacle. But they're really not obstacles. They feel like it, but fundamentally they I guess expose a lot of truths and give a lot of truths to the overall situation, and that in turn strengthens the twin flame bond. So I hope that makes sense. I think it does, and I hope that this was kind of like relatively easy to understand. I hope it brought some sort of clarity. So, but thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you next time.